Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Miranda VonFricken. Say hi.
Hello.
It was so tempting for me to immediately launch into a rant about confetti cannons, given talking about right before we started recording.
They can't see it, but woohoo.
I'm going to make sure that video goes somewhere. So tell us about your business and why you've got confetti cannons.
Oh my gosh. I love all things celebration. That's not my business, but it is a big part of it. So I'm the founder of Own Your Awesome. It is a book series, a podcast, and a global movement helping women, entrepreneurs, and executives to expand and elevate their voice, ultimately to shine a light on their awesomeness, their calling, their gifts that they brought to this earth with them, and just get it out into the world and help change some lives and make this place like the coolest place to live. Now, the confetti is just a bonus. That's because I love to celebrate women every single part of their journey, whether it's I got out of bed today to I just, changed something in the world or got a patent or wrote a book, whatever it is. I love to celebrate women because I don't think we do it enough for ourselves. So that's a huge part of what I do as a LinkedIn strategist and a personal brand evangelist is just shining a light on everyone's awesome and celebrating it along the way.
I love that you made that distinction too between the celebrating the big and the small, because especially, it could be, but I have a feeling that this is universal among entrepreneurs. Most of the entrepreneurs that I know are very focused on the big goal, the big milestones. And we're so focused on that future thing that we're going to do someday that it's easy on a day-to-day basis to be like, oh, I have so far to go. I am so far behind, blah, 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 right? Like we beat ourselves up. Yeah. And especially today, like we're recording on a day where getting out of bed was a challenge. Actually, I got up really early, went to the gym, came back, took a shower, went back to bed. It was a low energy day. And hey, awesome. I got up to record a podcast. We're celebrating.
Like I would even celebrate the fact that you said yes to going back to bed. When most of us would think like, all right, knock it off, like get some shit done. This is ridiculous. I've got a whole list of things to do. But you know what? Like I'm going to honor what my body needs and maybe my mind and spirit too. And she just needs to take a nap. So like I would celebrate the fact that you said yes to honoring yourself and giving you what you needed.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think like it's taken a while for me to get to this point, but I can acknowledge that it doesn't do me a damn bit of good to sit at the computer and try to force things to come to my brain, given that I operate in between my ears for most of what I do with my consulting. It doesn't make any sense to sit here and try and force it when I'm literally so exhausted that like it would take me less time to go take a quick 30-minute nap and then come back and try and bang out those thoughts than it would to sit here for an hour. Just saying.
I literally gave myself permission to watch. I'm watching Grimm. I don't know if you ever watched it, but it's new for me. So I love these kind of shows. So I'm watching Grimm and I gave myself permission to watch the whole season 1 last night and not do any work. My husband was like, hey, did you end up doing that project you said that was due tonight? And I'm like, it's really due tomorrow because I lied to myself about the deadlines. Yeah. Like it's really due tomorrow. So I am going to honor my my entertainment brain and she needs to be entertained right now with some supernatural stuff. And he was like, okay, do you?
Is that okay? I think I've done that to myself before too. Do you lie to yourself about the deadline so that like you're getting the incremental bits done and it's 100%. Not always the last minute? Oh, I love that.
And I've trained the people in my world to lie to me too.
What do they say when they're lying to you?
I'm late for everything and we got to be there at like 5:30. My husband will be like, oh, we got to be there at like 5:15, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. We'll get there at 5:25 and she's 5 minutes early.
Yeah. I love that. See, this is just knowing how you operate and honoring that and not beating yourself up for not being like, I'm a piece of crap because I can't just get there on time, blah, blah, blah. No, set up systems to help yourself. Okay, anybody watching the video will see this, but I'm describing it for people. I have this beautiful little tool, a little hexagon shaped timer, and on each side is a like increment of time. I had to get this for myself because every time I was trying to set a timer on a phone to do work, I would just lose 3 hours on my phone scrolling around. So like this is one of the boundaries I had to set for myself. If I need to set a timer, I need something that I could just I flip it over to one side and the timer starts and then we're all good. Know yourself. There's
Yep.
nothing wrong with that.
I've done that. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Instagram and been like, wait, what did I come here for? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, I was just going to set an alarm to do like time blocking. And I'm like, I can't even touch my phone without being distracted. And it takes me someplace I'm not supposed to be in that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great idea.
And that's even with like I actively disable every single notification I can. And
Mm,
during the workday, I'm usually in do not disturb mode and people can't get through. So I'm
nice.
like, I'm going to respond to you when I have time to respond to you. Otherwise, I'd be responding to everybody every second of the day. I would never get anything done. That's just a rule I had to put in place for myself.
Yeah.
Um, okay, this is awesome. We're already getting off to a very awesome ADHD start.
I know.
How did you wind up with this? Like, what got you to own your awesome?
So I had been laid off in the corporate space 4 times in a row. I know because
What?
I wasn't feeling very awesome. I felt very rejected. And I also felt the corporate space really wasn't where I was meant to be. I was in human resources for 15 years and I love resourcing the humans. Don't get me wrong. A lot of my clients are in HR now. And I really loved the cultural piece. I loved recruiting. I loved promoting the organization, but I didn't love all like the data and, make 15 phone calls to get 3 interviews. And I was like, no, like that's not how I roll. Like I'm going to put out a cute post on LinkedIn and they're going to come crawling to me because I'm going to look cute in the lunchroom and I'm going to show like how we have such a good time. And like the higher ups in their suits, they just didn't get me. And I get it. Some people thought I was just a cute and whatever, but I was like, no, this is a real way of being. Like people come to me because of what I'm putting out there, my personal brand. And so I got laid off 4 different times, all business decisions, different companies in a matter of 5 years. I was actually at one company for like 3.5 years. One company was like 4 months. And it was all like they got bought out or they went public and they had to go lean. And I was like the fluff of HR. It drove me crazy that they didn't really take culture or recruiting seriously. And so I got laid off this one experience. And 2 weeks later, my little brother passed away. Actually, my little brother passed away, and then 2 weeks later, I got laid off. I reversed those by accident. And it was such a hard-hitting experience personally and professionally. Both of my identities were kind of like punched in the face. And it was like, what? Like, being a big sister is a huge part of my identity. I have 3 little brothers, and it is just amazing to be a part of that in my world. And then losing one of my little brothers, it was such a shock, of course, to my whole system, to all the systems. It was such a shock. And I thought at some point after bereavement, I would go back to work where I was thriving. I had a huge support system, and just kind of slowly get back to life and heal. Well, it wasn't until a week later after getting back from bereavement that I had my position eliminated. And it was just like a double whammy. It was like a kick me when you're down kind of situation. And I love me some Jesus, but I lost a lot of my faith during that time only because was it being tested and I was feeling like I was failing miserably. So it was like losing my identity as a professional, as a sister, or in my personal life, and then in my spiritual life. And I had like a really rough time during that year. And I realized little by little coming out of that, I kind of said to myself, I couldn't change my brother passing, but what could I have changed at work to make it more where I want it to be, where they would accept me? And I thought like, I need to start being myself. I need to stop holding back my awesome, if you will. And I felt very like I would fake it every day. So I got another job and I took a first day picture, almost like, the kids take their first day of school picture. I took my first day at the next job picture and I put it on LinkedIn. And one of my biz besties was like, that is the fakest smile I've ever seen. She's like, what the hell?
Wow.
Yeah. She was like, what are you doing? And I knew it was. And I remember walking into that next job on day one and I looked up and I prayed and I said, God, if this is not for me, because I had already been a side hustler for years, a speaker and a coach, but nothing really full time. Like it paid my car payment, right? Like it wasn't much. I said, if this is not meant for me, like just make it quick.
Yeah.
Make it quick. And 4 months later, I was walking out laughing because they had got bought out and I was the last hire. And I was like, wow, that was quick. And I remember my boss kind of like chasing me out because I forgot to give him my badge. And he was like, what are you laughing at? And I was like, oh, I'm just talking to God because I told him to make this quick if it wasn't meant to be. And clearly it's not. So bye, here's my badge. See you later. And I just, from that point forward, I was like, full-time entrepreneurship. I don't care if I have to be poor for the first like 3 years. I don't even care. It wasn't 3 years, but like I really just said, it's time for me to own not only my awesome, of course, and that's a fun way of saying it, but owning the calling on my life, owning what I'm meant to do in this world, owning my gifts, owning my personality, and just giving myself permission to be me and call in those who are meant to be around me and just literally like retract, repel whoever is not meant to be around me. So I started doing that little by little. I started doing LinkedIn live shows and like talking about like shift happens instead of shit happens about being laid off.
Mm-hmm.
I just still can't really swear on LinkedIn too much. So I was doing lots of LinkedIn videos and just talking on everybody's podcast who would have me about being laid off. And I put out this post about I can get bitter or I can get better. And I just leaned into that kind of energy. And that's what I did. I started just owning exactly who I was, owning my awesome, started the podcast and wrote a book that's now a bestseller called Own Your Awesome on LinkedIn. So I think I really just started to embrace me. And that's what this is all about.
Oh man. And that's so interesting. I think that a lot of the message that people get, especially from super corporate big companies, is that conform, blend in, become one of us. That's what we hired you for. I used to get called out all the time. As longtime listeners might be able to tell, I'm a little bit feisty, a little bit opinionated, and I would get called into my boss's office all the time in corporate office. Like, Angie, could you come with me, please? Could you close the door? Could you sit down? I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I do now?
Every time. Well, yep. Did you smile too much?
No, for me, like I'm the queen of resting bitch face. Everybody would always ask me if I was mad at something. And I'm like, why do you think I'm mad? I'm just not smiling. That it doesn't, if I'm mad, you will be able to tell because usually I'm like, that pisses me off. Let me tell you why. Like you don't have to guess how I'm feeling. I will tell you.
Crazy. I would get called into the office for what I did get written up for swearing once, but it was like, hello, I'm Italian. I'm very passionate. These are sentence enhancers. What the heck? And so I was really pissed too, because as my boss was writing me up for swearing, because somebody apparently walked by our group of offices and heard that it was me or whatever, bitch. She walked by, she heard me, she ratted me out. My CEO walked into the office of me getting written up and started like swearing up a storm, like this effing blah, 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 blah. And I just look at my boss. I was like, you're kidding, right? And so we ended up ripping that right up. I was like, you gotta be kidding me that you're writing me up.
You gotta be kidding me. You're fucking kidding, right? Like, listen,
you're fucking kidding,
you're writing me up for swearing? Oh,
and I actually high-fived the CEO. I was like, I love that you use such awesome sentence enhancers. Should you show your personality? And he was like, obviously took it aback, but he was just like, what? He didn't even know he was swearing. He just like, it just comes out. I'm so angry. And I'm like, I know, right? Yep. That's how it happens.
It's just a
and
word.
Then once I got written up for walking into the C-suite and giving them like my report on something that the CEO had asked for, but I didn't go through the chain of command. He asked me for something. I walked into the suites and like the executive assistant was like, what is she doing in here? She's HR. She should be in the other wing. It was like, I can't walk in the fucking hallway. Like, suck it.
Freaking power trips. It's bizarre.
It's what it is.
I say that as the person who like in my corporate office when I was a full-time copywriter, I asked for meetings with the president because I have a few ideas. And it's probably been a while since you've been down here with the hoi polloi. So like, let me share what's going
Right.
on.
Right down here.
Very precocious. I had no sense of chain of command. I mean, I loved my immediate supervisor and the creative director of my team, and they knew exactly what I was doing. So like, they thought it was hilarious that I would just like go ask for a meeting with the president. Um, I love that you also said, like, this is it. This is the sign. I don't care if I have to be poor. And I feel like that's one of the things that holds people back from doing this. What if I
Yeah.
can't pay my bills? What if I can't figure
Right.
this out? Like, with a long enough runway and some support, anybody can figure this out. I'm convinced.
100%.
It's just that you have to figure out your way of doing it. And that can be really uncomfortable in a culture that tells you, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, and I will do it. And I will get that A, and I will get the things that were promised to me. And that's just not how my journey has been. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's been that way for you.
No, I'm figuring it out as I go every step of the way. Like I literally just put a reel on Instagram or a story that said, I just wrote a book. It became bestseller. Now what? Like, I don't even know what to do next. Like, are you freaking? I don't even know what to do next. Like, I know what I want to do, what the results are to be, but I'm figuring out like what that means in between. And it's funny. So I grew up, my mother was very like, go with the flow. I'm very when the spirit moves me. And it was me and my mom against the world. She had me at 16. So we lived a very like gypsy life, right? Peanut butter and jellies on the beach in a car that should have been repossessed months ago, but we used to hide it. Like we definitely grew up super poor. So I wasn't afraid of just eating cheese until I could get a real meal. Like, but I have a husband and I have 2 kids, and he grew up with his grandparents raising him, and they were very like GE family. Like he had a pension, like the grandfather that raised him, and the grandmother did the cooking. And it was very like what I used to watch on TV. It wasn't what my life was by any means. And so when I said to my husband, like, hey, I got laid off again, he's like, again, are you serious? He's like, all right, so putting out your resume. It's like, I know all the people. So he's like, who are you connecting with? What's your next job? And I'm like, I just don't want another job.
Mm-hmm.
But like, because, they're in that middle of like, I don't want to like lose my house. I've got kids, right? Like it's a little different now. I have to be a little more responsible. So I applied to places, I got interviews, and one I thought for sure I was going to get. I got my start in higher education. And so I interviewed at a college, and I thought for sure they were going to hire me. And I begged and pleaded for God not to, like, don't let them hire me. Let them think I'm crazy. Like, and like, you could tell I was half-assing the interview because my heart's not in it. And they couldn't afford me is what they ended up saying. Like, listen, you're out of our budget, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I am, suckers. Like, 'cause I want all the money if I'm going to be like back in prison.
Yeah. Oh,
But
God.
so I love higher education and I love human resources, and those are my clients. I'm just not meant to walk into that office every day and do the function that they do. I'm meant to elevate their voices and help them to do their job a little differently. So I still get to work in higher education and in the corporate space. I just don't have a sad gray cubicle that I live in anymore. So that was pretty good. But the poor, I remember making 6 figures to replace my corporate salary within the first year. And I literally had no idea what I was doing. All I knew, well, because technically my first full-time year was over the pandemic, and I do LinkedIn, right? So I started doing resumes and LinkedIn, and it just was unfortunately perfectly aligned where people were getting laid off left and right. And I happened to be the queen of getting laid off.
Yeah.
I was an unemployed career coach, right? So it was kind of perfect that I knew how to help people with their mindset as well as their strategy. So I am like half mindset, half strategy. I mean, technically I'm 100% all of it, but I do a really great job of like bringing their heart and soul into what they need to do and then create a strategy that aligns with it to get them to where they're going, not to just put money in their bank, So I started doing that. I started saying like, hey, like, you know me, I live on LinkedIn. I'm the host of LinkedIn Local here in my Albany area. So I already had like a following here about LinkedIn, which had nothing to do with my 9 to 5. So I just went hard at what people knew me for. And I just started taking clients, if you will, and it worked out. And I was very grateful for it, of course. But I remember also, we talk about celebration. The day I made, it was like $101 or $101,000. It put me over the edge. I just signed a new client and I still had to pick my kid up at summer camp. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just going to go pick up my kid now. Like nothing happened. It was like, oh, I guess it's easier than we think. I think is my main point here is like, yes, like I said, I'll be poor. I don't even care. I just want to be happy. But I think when you're doing what you're meant to do, it comes easier than you think. Even
Yes.
if you're Googling how to start a business or what do I do, like there are coaches out there that have sessions that are affordable. Like I have a strategy session that's $500 and I've never raised the price, but I can
Hmm.
get you started, get you a strategy and support you along the way. Like just like as your bud, one question here and there. And like people just think it's just so overpriced. You don't have to go to the $10 million mastermind. You can find somebody whose passion is
Yeah.
to help you strategize a business, so
Hmm.
they're out there. You just got to find them, and networking is how I did it. And, I'm still loving it to this day.
So much of this is fantastic. We just, all right, how do I start unpacking this? Like, one, like, you could have easily gone the other way, especially with this idea of I'm a career coach, I'm helping people own their awesome. I'm not feeling particularly awesome having just gotten laid off 4 times in a row. And now I've got this in the death in the family and all of this stuff is happening. What kept you focused on like, no, I can help these people. I'm the perfect person to help these people, given my experience with being laid off.
Yeah, because I knew it because I was a little further ahead. I had already done it multiple times and I've
Hmm.
done multiple options. So I took more classes. So I did the education route after a layoff. I went back to work and interviewed and networked. And the fact that I was a career director at the college. So I knew how to help people get jobs. So I knew how to get jobs. I just knew I didn't want a job anymore.
Hmm.
So I was like, I may not want the job anymore, but I can help you get the job. Like that'll be super easy. And so I spent a lot, like the first year, just doing the career coaching and the life coaching. I have a master's in motivation and life fulfillment. So my heart is my calling is really to help women figure out who they are in this world and why they're here in this time now. So I've been doing that forever. And then I'm a speaker too. Even when I was a 9 to 5er, I would teach other colleges how to help their career centers help their students. And so I was still kind of like honing my skills as an entrepreneur in my 9 to 5 life, what to me, it seemed like it was very streamlined to just transition into entrepreneurship. And I think that's one thing clients that come to me who want to leave their 9 to 5 and become an entrepreneur, they just want to quit and figure it out. And I'm like, no, don't quit and figure it out. Let your 9 to 5 pay you while you figure it out. A.
Yes.
And B, like, what do you love within your 9 to 5? And how can we do that outside of your 9 to 5 and make money doing it now? And so
Hmm.
I think it's just a reframe, a little perspective shift, because I've done that multiple times. So when the time presented itself that I was not going back to my 9 to 5, obviously it was the pandemic had hit. I had my last layoff. It was January of 2020 and the pandemic hit in March. And so while I was like side hustling, taking B school, whatever, all that stuff, I remember my daughter was in 3rd grade at the time. I all of a sudden had to become a 3rd grade teacher. And I was like, no, thank you. Because all the kids had to be homeschooled. So I was
Hmm.
like, what the Sam hell? Like, how am I going to homeschool, build a business, do the things? And I feel very strongly about when you tell the universe your plans, it will conspire to help you achieve
Hmm.
those. Right. So I said, I'm not going back to work. I told my husband to figure his shit out mentally because I wasn't going back to work. And granted, we couldn't, at that moment, we couldn't live off of his salary. So I was like, I will make it work. I will replace my corporate salary. You keep yours. It'll be great. While homeschooling my 3rd grader, which is not my calling, by no means is it my calling. And so the coolest part that happened and that really just solidified my belief in saying what you want out loud and telling people was that my husband was recruited out of his current job to a different company that doubled his salary.
Oh, I
I
love
know. I was
that.
like, oh, snap. So, as much as I'd love to tell people, like, I hustled my face off, I didn't sleep, I got up at 4 a.m., blah, blah, blah. I didn't do any of that shit. I
Hmm.
trusted myself and I trusted the universe to provide. And I say universe, but to me, it's God. I 100% knew it was God providing. I don't care what anybody calls it. There's something higher than us that's out there that's conspiring to make us awesome.
Yeah.
And I believe in it.
I've said something similar. Like I have, a lot of folks have some religious trauma. I don't know what I believe. I
Mm,
just tell people I believe that humans can't possibly be the smartest things in the universe because
can you
otherwise we're
imagine?
fucked. Like
We
we
are
are
fucked.
doomed if we're the smartest things out there. So, and I've felt it too often in my life just this impossible coincidence. A screenwriter couldn't have written my life that perfectly for it to line up the way it did. Like the time that I lost my apartment and I was going through the inspection and was giving the key to the lady when I got the call with the job offer and was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Hello.
What? How does this work? And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned like the hustle my face off and I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I hate that shit. I hate it so, so much. One, because I bought into it and I'm super resentful, right? But two, because it just perpetuates this myth of if you're not working hard, you haven't earned this. And I agree with your sentiment of like, if you can find that intersection of what you enjoy and what you're really good at, this can be full of ease. And I don't mean easy, that's something different, but like we can do work that lights us up, that does some good in the world. Some of the easiest sales I've made after years of like studying sales scripts and structuring offers and like doing all of this work to be quote unquote good at it was somebody reached out to me and asked me a question via email. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I just started doing a new offer that offers something similar. Can I tell you a little bit about it? And they were like, sure. Told them a little bit about it. And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. Sign me up.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Wait, what? That goes against everything I was taught about having a sales presentation and like walking somebody
Yeah.
through the offer. And those people still work. The people that I did that easy offer with, I'm still working with private clients over a year later. So like, allow it to be easy. It's okay to be easy. It's okay to not buy into the bullshit notion that you have to work hard, otherwise you haven't earned your success. BS.
Right. My easiest sale was, and this is how like my business and offers elevate. It's never something I create. It's something my clients ask if I could just do for them or something. So with the
Yes.
LinkedIn, so for the longest time I was doing one-on-one LinkedIn coaching, and then there were so many one-on-ones, which sounds so braggadocious, but whatever. I'll toot my own horn, toot toot. I said, I'm going to have to create like a school. Like we're going to have to get together once a quarter. We all, 4-day, half-day thing, whatever, 4-day, a half a day, 4-hour thing. And we'll just bang it out. It'll be cheaper too. And they were like, we love it. This is awesome. And then after a while, I had a hospital reach out to me I do a lot of self-leadership. So with my master's program and my life coaching stuff, I do a lot of self-leadership training in organizations. So I did a self-leadership training. Somebody asked me about LinkedIn because they know I do LinkedIn in the audience. And I said, yeah, I was talking about LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was the marketing director in the audience and said, can you just do it for us? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like the content, like the management, like pretend you work for us in marketing, but you don't, you have your own business. And I'm like, yeah. Let me noodle on that and send you a price. And I was like, how's $10,000? It was like the biggest, craziest sale I ever did. So for a year for $10,000, which now it's like 20,000 or way more because I was like, shit, I was totally underpricing myself for what I had to do. But they wrote me a check for $20,000 or $10,000. I created content for them on LinkedIn and it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God. So that started my done for you LinkedIn services, which I've since kind of retired because losing my voice writing other people's content became a thing. And, as we learn as we go. And that's what I think I gave myself permission to do right from the start, was not lock myself into like a niche or what I do, who I do it for. I love working with women. I'll work with anybody when it comes to LinkedIn. I think that's a little different. But when it comes to like our heart and life coaching and our spiritual well-being, I prefer to work with women because I feel a connection to women more than I do a man when it comes in that respect. But on LinkedIn, I'll work with anybody because it's really just about you. It's like your resume, essentially. It's your, it's a little bit bigger than that. It's like your resume and your website together in one as LinkedIn. And so I just remember like how awesome that was. And I gave myself permission to just go with the flow. Like when the spirit moves me, that's when I will move, is kind of how I call it. Same with posting on LinkedIn. Like if you haven't seen me on LinkedIn for a week, it's because the spirit's not moving me. And if you see me posting every day, I'm obviously being moved. And I think that has been like, not my claim to fame, if you will, but that's been like how I decided to run my business. I mean, I'm not making millions, but I'm making enough I've more than replaced my corporate salary. I'd love to retire my husband someday because he could just manage my daughter's sports schedule because that's a whole job in itself. but like I'm happy. I'm happy where
Yeah.
I am. I love that I can spend a whole day Tuesday watching Grimm and nobody's gonna give me shit for it. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. And I just feel very blessed. And I think that's one thing, either newbies getting into it or people looking to elevate to the next level, they do get so hung up on, hustling their face off, or they hear the
Mm-hmm.
the, the bros out there like with all their
Or
freaking
the steps, or they
yeah,
they
yeah.
they take on somebody else's goals. I got to make this much per month. I got to make this much per year. Otherwise, I'm not being successful. And I wanted to circle back and point out that piece that you mentioned about learning as you go and trusting yourself. You just did things that felt right, and you saw the results, and you listened to the people that you were talking to. Like, these are so many things that I hear in the people that I work with when I'm coaching folks. It's like, so what do people say? What are they asking you for? When you have people approach you with questions, what are they saying most often? Can you create something around that? Oh, well, I don't know. Okay, well, it's time to start paying attention. And are you going out there and making offers? Well, no, I haven't created that content because I need to get the vision, and then I need to reverse engineer all of the steps so that I can figure out what I need to be doing today. Or you could just do shit today
Yeah,
and
just
see
do
what
something today.
happens.
Yeah. Yep. I'm literally working with a woman now. She's a special needs empowerment coach for special needs support, like the parents or the family members. And she's like, I got to get my website out. I got to get my newsletter. I got to get the things. And I'm like, girl, just put a post on Facebook. Like, cause that's where she is right now. And I'm like, we'll talk about LinkedIn. We'll talk about your Insta. We'll talk about all your marketing. I'm obsessed with visibility. So like, we'll get you on a stage. It'll be a thing. We create a keynotes. Like, we'll write you a book. It's a whole thing. But she was just like so bogged down on what she thought she needed to do in order to run or create a business, right? She said, legitimize herself. And I'm like, what's legit? Putting that post out saying you're a coach.
Mm-hmm. You know
I'm
what's
like, you're going to
legit? The
DM.
first time somebody pays
Yeah.
you money to do
Yes,
something.
absolutely. Or not even what's funny? I'd taken a step before that. Like if they agree to work with you, and even if it's just to trade for a testimonial, like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's your first three or something, and the first person. And I say, who did you like support or help and do this stuff with minus money now or like a year ago? And she's like, oh my God, like so many people. And eventually everybody's like, you should just start charging for this. And I'm like, those women, yeah, you're going to get an email from them. You're going to ask them for a testimonial, and you can put that on your website because she's already like working on it. I said, or you use that as content and say, listen, now I'm just going to start charging people for it because now it's my
Mm-hmm.
business. And she's already got her first client. She's getting offers to speak on stages. And it's just, her niche is it's very niche. So like, it's really cool to see when you just like do the simplest thing, right? Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to, what's the massive solution? No, what's the easiest solution? Like my
Yeah.
husband always yells at me for like oversimplifying things, like the roof will collapse. And I'm like, just get some duct tape for now. What the fuck? And he's like, girl, we can't duct tape the roof. And I'm like, no, but you could probably do X, Y, and Z. Go to Home Depot, get this, get that, whatever. And then we'll call a roofer. And he's like, they get so mad at me because I oversimplify things, but you just need the solution for now while you're figuring out the longer term solution. So for now, put a post out on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you are, Facebook, that says, I'm taking on 3 clients. If this
Mm-hmm.
is a thing, boo, I'm now a coach. One woman said to
Yeah.
me, how do I start speaking? I said, you just call yourself a speaker. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I was like, you speak every day. Are you speaking to me right now? She's like, stop it.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
say you're a speaker, then, obviously that's out to the universe. I'm a speaker, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't just say I'm an author if you don't have a book. I get that. Or she's like, I didn't speak on a stage yet. I don't speak on stages all the time. I speak live on LinkedIn. I speak on Zoom calls. Like the stage,
Exactly.
you now create your own stages these days. You don't have to have somebody hire you and book you to walk up 3 steps to be a little bit taller than the audience and call that now a speaker. No, you can just hit go live and you're a friggin' speaker. If you have an expertise in something or passion, you're now a speaker. And she
I
was like
love that.
mind blown. And now it's on her
Talk
LinkedIn. She's a
about,
speaker.
like, at the risk of being a little bit in your face, but like, permission to kick ass.
Oh
Obviously,
my
you
God,
don't,
duh.
you can
Unintended.
build your own platform, your own stage. The
Mhm.
gates have come down. The gatekeepers are scrambling, going, well, shit, they're all coming in now. Yeah, they are.
I mean, I don't need a conference manager to find me, or I don't have to apply for something and give them my budget. I can just go live on YouTube. On my podcast, I told you earlier, my podcast is on my cell phone. I upload it to rss.com. It's the jankiest MacGyvered podcast, but people love it. Like, and it's just because I wanted one and I was scared of tech. I'm not going to lie. Like, me and tech aren't friends. And so somebody told me the easiest way to do it is this. And I was like, that's how I'm going to do it until I get the hang of it. And that I'll start elevating it now, of course. But like, it's been a year. I already been doing it for a year. And all I do is walk around my living room and vent into my cell phone voice notes. And I have a podcast.
I love that. If there's one takeaway from this show, it's like, what's the easiest way I could do this? Mind blown on that. And I love the fact that you were also pointing out, like, look for evidence. And then there's this concept of like identity and embracing the identity. You know, I've been a writer for over 14 years. I do have a book and all of these things, but I remember at the beginning how hard it was to call myself a writer, because I didn't know if it was any good and I didn't know if anybody liked it or anything like that. And now that I have people that are breaking into the industry that come up to me like, what do I do to be a writer? And I say, are you writing? And they're like, well, no. Well, like, the first step is writers write. Speakers speak, writers write. Like, you got to do the thing that you're claiming to do, even if it's just for yourself. If you're not going to pick up a pen until somebody pays you, then you're not a writer. Like, and the same thing with the speaker. Like, you can speak. I speak on a podcast. So, hey, you know, if I haven't been up on a stage recently, does that change the fact that I'm a speaker? I don't think so. I could get up there and speak and riff. That's what I do every week on this freaking show.
My first podcast, my girlfriend and I used to joke about, we just talked about talking.
Yep.
Yeah. We did talk about talking because we love to talk. We love to talk to each other, but we were both growing two separate businesses together as biz besties. And so we just like, let's just put a microphone in front of us and see what comes out.
See what comes out. Yeah. And that ties in perfectly. Like, I couldn't have written this myself too. Like, you help people own their awesome. You help people with the career and the LinkedIn and stuff like that. You do something that I call looking for evidence. When I got my first copywriting job, at that point, I was a jack of all trades. We're talking firefighting, lifeguarding, picking up trash, math tutoring, writing kids' college papers. I should not have gotten that job based on my resume because I had zero relevant experience, except I decided I did. And I went and looked for evidence and then just stacked all that evidence up. And I had to apply to like 400 or 500 different gigs before I got, you know, and I got several interviews, but I got this one that gave me a chance that started me down this path. And I was doing things like, I wrote the menu and the sandwich board advertisements at the restaurant where I'm a waitress. I wrote the plan for the, you know, this manual over here. I did this internship over here where I wrote this thing, and I would just cherry pick the things that I wanted to highlight that proved, not just to me, but to other people, that I had the experience. There is a connection between where I've been and where I'm going. I just need you to see the potential in me like I see the potential here. Let's make some shit happen.
Mm-hmm.
You can look just as much as you can look for evidence that you don't have a right to be here. You could be looking for evidence that you have every right to be here.
Who's the person that says whatever you're look for, you'll find, right?
Yes.
Like, if you're looking to not, like, I don't have the evidence, I don't have this. If you're looking to prove that you're not that person, then you're going to prove you're not that person. But if you're looking to prove you are, I call it elements of your awesomeness or evidence of your awesomeness. Like, go find those key pieces and just take notes. Back when I was a 9-to-5er, I worked from a notebook because, again, tech, but I love working from a notebook. That's something about needing to write things down. Mm-hmm. Anytime I did something out of the box or out of my scope or something awesome, I'd put it in the back of my notebook and I collected a list of my awesomeness, right? So when I'd go to my review once a year, because who the hell can remember how well you do in a friggin' year? Yeah. Nobody can, but I did, because I would type up my section of the review and it'd be like, I need a second page, please. And my boss would be like, oh my God, I forgot about this. So that was in February. Of course you forgot about it. Like, it was a year ago. Like, and so I'd always get the highest percentage of the raise. Like, you know, like, we'd have to split it between the department, but I would get the highest chunk of it because I collected the evidence. It's not because I did more than my teammates. I just happened to document the shit more and bring it to, you know, present when the time came. And always before job interviews, I'd tell people to do the same thing. Like, I'm doing a resume now for a woman, and I don't even do resumes anymore, but it was just like a favor. So I'm pulling out the things that she's done. And she's like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, yeah. And then I did that. And it just kind of like started to like unravel all the things she did. And she was like, damn, I am good. And I'm like, but your resume looks like shit. It looks like you don't, like, what the fuck? It looks like you don't trust or believe her. I wouldn't hire you with this resume. But now talking to you, and an interviewer is not going to pull all that out of you. It's just going to ask you the question, give you the answer, and that's that. Same with when I'm on discovery calls with either a client or somebody I want to work with. I ask the question, I believe their answer, and that's that. Had they been prepared with all their collection of evidence, they may have a link to send me of, here's my testimonials, here's all the reports people I've worked with, here is like the LinkedIn profiles I've designed, And so they're always like, wow, thank you for sending me all of that. Like, even in the back of my book, I have a section of testimonials. People who, it's called social proof, evidence of client awesomeness, right? And so this is all of my clients that are like, working with Miranda, this happened. And I've gotten actually, one of my clients got a client because they read this book and said, Miranda said, you were awesome. And so I'm going to work with you now. And so my client reached out to me and was like, I can't believe that. But this is shining a light on it. Not only myself, but I shine a light on other women and their awesomeness. And so that's, for me, like, owning your awesome ultimately just means embracing 100% who you truly are, shining a light on it, and just letting the universe kind of expand that and call in the right people you're meant to work with and surround yourself with and do life with.
Oh, absolutely. And you said something that was so great there, that you love shining a light on other people. And the thought that popped up for me here was how often so many of us, especially women, have trouble asking for things like testimonials, feedback, things like that, because we're afraid of being a burden, right? So I'm going to circle it back to what Miranda just said. I love shining a spotlight on these people. I love helping them shine. I actually did an exercise, and this took me out of my comfort zone too, right? I was raised in the deep South. Don't rock the boat. Don't be a bother, all of that stuff. I challenged myself and put together a list of the hundreds of people that I have coached in various like programs as somebody's hired coach since 2018, right? And I had all kinds of excuses in my head about, I can't reach out to this person because I don't know that that person would remember me. I don't know that we work that close. Here's an excuse for all of these different people as to why I can't reach out. And I went, bullshit. Nope. Every single person gets an email. Hey, I'm actively growing my coaching practice. I would love it if if something stood out from your time working with me, if you would be willing to provide me with a testimonial, I'll be super grateful. Here's some questions that I like to ask people in case that sparks any ideas. And then I just let it be. I didn't expect anything in return. I just made the ask. I got such wonderful, glowing feedback from people going, okay, how can I help? Here's my testimonial. Do you need any edits? So like all of that to say, there are people out there that are rooting for you. Yeah, there's shitty trolls, but like just ignore them. They're off being miserable together in a big collective cesspool. It's fine. Yeah. Find your people like me, like Miranda, who are out here cheering for you, who love to see you shine, who are confetti cannons when you're freaking winning. Yep, she's throwing it. She's throwing it right here on camera. We've got the proof. Like, we're out here rooting for you. We all win together. There's so much joy and opportunity and expansiveness out here if you look for it, if you find that evidence.
Yeah.
Feeling ranty today.
We go further together. I mean, that's just kind of like how this is. Like, once I started to own my awesomeness, I knew I was on a mission to help others do the same. And it's not just about us. It's not just owning my awesomeness. It's the people around us, right? And the more we shine our light, though, our light shines on others, right? Like, think about it. You walk into a room and I bring a flashlight. I'm going to illuminate the others in the room with me. It's not just me. I'm going to shine this flashlight on. So I think it's there's something powerful to be said about the ripple effect of owning our own awesome. Like, my confidence, people often would say in my testimonials, you'll see the word contagious or infectious a lot. And I always hated that, especially around the pandemic. I'm like, oh, that's a creepy word.
Miranda's infectious.
Infectious, I was like, ew, weird. But like, I get it. Like, the fact that I'm so just myself, right? And myself happens to be like pink and bubbly. I wear tutus on stages. Like, my being myself, kind of, I don't need to give someone else permission to be themselves, because I think they already need to give it to themselves, first of all, right? I think that's a huge piece. But like the permission, essentially, it was like, I don't know. Jesus came to get you to follow him and to be an example. And I'm the same way, right? Like, so that's kind of like how I look at it, right? To get all Christian on you. But like, I feel wholeheartedly that to shine a light on someone, you have to be the light, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I roll. And anytime I'm not feeling like the light, I just kind of make sure I just kind of like hide in my house for like a couple days, take that nap we talked about earlier. And then when
Changing
I'm ready,
perspective.
when I'm ready, then I get back out and I do me, and it always works out.
What was that saying? It's like, if you feel like, you hate everybody, take or eat something. And if you feel like everybody hates you, take a nap.
Is that like starve a cold, feed a flu kind of thing, but like in personality?
Personality, change it up. It's like all those ADHD videos out there that I say, like, I'm feeling crap. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling low energy. Have you been outside in the sunshine? Have you eaten? Have you drank water? Like, okay, do these things. Move your body.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I want to talk for like 3 more hours, but we're up against time. So this has been so fantastic. I think this is such a great episode. I can't wait for it to come out. In the meantime, please tell us more about Own Your Awesome, how we can work with you. Lay it on me.
Well, first find me on LinkedIn. That's where I live. And if you're not on LinkedIn, I'm also on Instagram. You can find me there. My website's MirandaVonFricken.com. That can kind of lay out all the things. I do obviously LinkedIn, personal branding, and then self-leadership coaching. And I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, and I'm a trainer. So if you have any of those needs or you just want to have an awesome conversation, I'm here for it. Find me and we'll connect.
Fantastic. I'm going to make sure that there are clickable links in the show notes. Thank you again. I think I needed this conversation today.
Oh,
thank you, universe.
God.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.